Hello, I am Peter Okwacha. Welcome to Focus on Africa. Our top stories. Another 7 years, Cameroon's President Paul Biya wins a 7th term in office in an election marred by low turnout and accusations of voter intimidation. Ethiopia's president signs a historic peace deal with the separatist Ogaden National Liberation Front, ending a 34-year-old armed rebellion. Nigeria's President Buhari says police have been authorized to do everything possible to restore calm in Kaduna State after communal violence leaves at least 55 people dead. Also on the program, towards a cashless society. How one restaurant in Nairobi is embracing technology and allowing customers to pay for their food with Bitcoin.
They want to know what is Bitcoin, what is cryptocurrency. I'm also adapting it as my customers because they want to learn and know what it is.
And in sport, after 2 years of political exile, Rio Olympic silver medalist Feyisa Lelisa returns home. Thanks for joining us here on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. The president of Cameroon, Paul Biya, has won a landslide victory in the recent elections. Official results say he polled just over 71% of the votes. The 85-year-old is currently in his 36th year as president, and this will be his 7th term in power after limits were abolished in 2008. In a continent with a history of many long-serving political leaders, he's beaten only by neighboring Equatorial Guinea's Obiang Nguema. Some 60% of Cameroonians are under 25, so weren't even born when Mr. Biya first came to power. The vote was disrupted in much of the English-speaking areas of Cameroon, which has seen a secessionist rebellion. Let's get the latest now from the BBC's Kilian Chimtom, who's in Yaoundé for us.
The celebration time in Cameroon. President Biya has just won another 7-year mandate. The president was declared the victor by the Constitutional Council with 71% of the votes, leaving the other 7 candidates in the race with barely 30%. Now, it was a rather contentious race. The opposition says the vote was riddled with large-scale fraud, and they have rejected the results of this election. In fact, Maurice Kamto, who got just 40% and was one of Biya's major challengers, has said he cannot accept the results that were declared today. Now, Mr. Biya has been in power for the past 36 years, and his government has been criticized for large-scale corruption, for violation of human rights, and for political repression. Now, he's going in for another mandate, the 7th mandate, so to speak, at a time when the country is really almost tearing apart. There is a secessionist uprising to the west of the country, and President Biya will have to look for better ways of resolving what has become known here as the Anglophone problem. In the past, the president preferred military might to quell down the tensions. Now he might have to revise that strategy. Kilian Gala, BBC News, Yaoundé.
Well, Felix Agbon-Kongo is a human rights lawyer from Cameroon and the director for the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa. He joins us on the line from Toronto, Canada. Felix, not much of a surprise in this result, is there?
No, I don't think any right-thinking person would be surprised with the results of the elections. It's just that it's an unfortunate day for Cameroon. It's a very sad day for pro-democracy activists. It's a sad day for those who expected change in Cameroon. And it's a sad day for the entire Central African region to have somebody who is 86 years old, who's been in power for 36 years, to have another 7 years mandate. I don't think anything good can come out from this country.
Hold on, Felix. You say it's a sad day for the country. It's a bad day for the country. This is somebody who's just been voted in with 71% of the vote.
No, I don't think anybody is fooling anybody. I think we know what happens in Cameroon. Electioneering is a process that culminates with voting. Let us not look at elections only on the day of the voting. Look at the process prior to the elections. Look at the funding at the disposal of the incumbent. Look at the media. Look at everything that he has. And the rules of the game, they are not free, they are not fair, so they have everything in their control. The elections doesn't reflect the wishes of the Cameroonian people. It doesn't reflect the aspirations of the Cameroonian people. It doesn't reflect the cry for Cameroonians to have change that would enable each and every Cameroonian to aspire to the best for the country. Yes, he has won. Yes, the Constitutional Council has announced that he won the elections. Yes, it's not surprising to any Cameroonian that he won, because you could, if you followed up the debates, the discussions, the petition during the Constitutional Council, it was clearly tilted to favor
Felix, let me just cut you there, because in the run-up to these elections, I mean, we've spoken to quite a few Cameroonians, and many point to the experience that President Biya has got on the job in his 36 years in power, and say in a country as complex as Cameroon, he's the man to take the country forward.
Yeah, I know his campaign slogan is a force of experience, and it could be negative or it could be positive. He's the man to take Cameroon to where? 36 years of corruption, 36 years of ineptitude, 36 years of underdevelopment, 36 years of crisis in the north, Boko Haram, the Anglophone crisis. He's shown clearly that he has failed to meet.
But Felix, I mean, you must agree that, I mean, Cameroon is a secondary victim of the Boko Haram violence, which started in Nigeria. But let's talk about the opposition. You're clearly not happy about President Biya's victory. What next now for the opposition? What can they do? Well,
don't get me wrong. I don't think we're just criticizing Mr. Biya without saying that the opposition also did not do their homework, okay? They had a golden opportunity to come together, to have a single candidate, and put up a veritable fight against Mr. Biya during election, and post-election. It wasn't just for the election, but the post-election and time. What we expect from them is now that we are going to have municipal and legislative elections, is for them to put their ego aside to work for the interests of Cameroonians. Cameroonians have to see them fighting for us, fighting against marginalization.
And just very briefly, they were not able to set those egos that you talk about aside for the presidential election. Will they be able to do that for the municipal elections? Very briefly.
They might be able to do that, because I think Cameroonians are ready. These elections has woken up the conscientization of Cameroonians, and I think they are ready to dump each and every politician who doesn't work for the general good. And it is incumbent on them. They don't have a choice, because if they don't come together, Mr. Biya will defeat them, or the CBN will defeat them in the next election.
Felix Nkongo, a human rights lawyer from Cameroon and director of the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa. Thank you very much for talking to us.
You're most welcome.
Let's go to Ethiopia now, where the government and the separatist Ogaden National Front have signed a peace deal. The move ends the ONLF's 34-year armed rebellion. The deal stipulates that both sides will cease hostilities, with the separatists agreeing to use peaceful political means to pursue independence for the Somali-speaking Ogaden region. The ONLF are a separatist rebel group. They've been fighting for the right to self-determination for Somalis in the Somali region of Ethiopia since 1984. The area is known to be rich in oil and gas. The ONLF has claimed responsibility for multiple attacks, including one in 2007 when 74 people were killed in a rebel attack on a Chinese-run oil facility close to Jijiga. They were considered a terrorist organization until President Abiy Ahmed's government removed them from the terror list in July. They soon signed a ceasefire deal, a move that laid the groundwork for the peace deal agreement.
The peace deal between the Ethiopian government and the Ogaden National Liberation Front, the ONLF, was signed yesterday in the Eritrean capital, Asmara. Leading the Ethiopian government's delegation was Warqina Gabayehu, the country's foreign minister. Other senior government officials, including the regional president of the Somali region, Mustafa Umar, were part of the negotiation. The ONLF is a separatist group that had been operating in the often restive Ethiopian eastern region for more than 3 decades. It says it represents the area's quest for self-determination. It was deemed a terrorist group by the government here in Addis until recently, when Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's reformist measure removed it from the list. The ONLF declared a unilateral ceasefire last August due to what it said promising steps taken by the Ethiopian government for peace talks and negotiations. In a statement following the peace talk now, it says historical agreements have been reached to address its difference with the Ethiopian government. But we will have to wait and see what new role the ONLF will have in this new Ethiopia with new administrations, both at the regional and federal level. Kalkidan Ibeltal, BBC News, Addis Ababa.
Let's take a quick look now at other stories making the headlines across Africa and the rest of the world. In Nigeria, the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has vowed not to return to court, where he was standing trial before he fled the country while on bail. The government has charged him with treason. Kanu's whereabouts had been unknown since September 2017, until he resurfaced last week in Israel. Students at Ghana's Kwame Nkrumah University and Science Technology have mounted roadblocks, vandalized property and boycotted lectures in protest over what they describe as unwarranted brutality by campus security and university management. The Student Council called for a peaceful protest and boycott of lectures for Monday, but things turned violent. And Saudi Arabia has blamed the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi on a rogue operation. Foreign Minister Adel Al-Jubeir told Fox News the murder had been a tremendous mistake and denied the powerful Crown Prince ordered it. The Saudis admitted for the first time on Friday that he had been killed in a fight. In Nigeria, a special police force has been deployed to parts of the northwest Kaduna state, where communal violence over the past days has left at least 55 people dead. Authorities have imposed a 24-hour curfew, and President Muhammadu Buhari tweeted that the police had been authorized to do everything possible to restore calm. Well, Kabir Adamu is a security analyst based in Abuja. He joins us from there now. Kabir, it's not the first time that sectarian violence has flared up in this region. What's behind it?
Several factors, unfortunately. The most prominent one is religious intolerance, distrust within the communities in that location, as well as between the communities and the government. On the other hand, you have unemployment, you have large pool of youths that are quite restive, if I would describe with that word. And then lastly, you have the inability of the security forces to rein in this type of activities.
But why is it so difficult for the security forces, as you put, to rein in this violence? Because this region has been known for its volatility since I can remember in the 70s.
Well, several times, I'll quote the police. In previous episodes, they've come out to blame what they would call powerful politicians. And in some instances, they've used the term political mischief. And then you have ethnic militias that are, quote unquote, suspected to be involved in the violence. But what we haven't seen is the prosecution of these categories that have been suspected of involvement in the crisis. If we look at the current case in Kaswan Magani, which is a community about 50 kilometers from Kaduna, the last incident before this latest one happened in February, and the governor himself came out and said he was going to prosecute those behind it. But we're not aware that anyone has been prosecuted for the killing of over 20 people.
Okay, well, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, President Buhari came into office with security at the top of his agenda. Has he failed, and how much of a part will this play going into next year's polls?
So it's neither here nor there. If you look at the northeast of Nigeria, where terrorism is quite rife, he's managed to contain the spread of terrorism and to an extent decimate, this is the language of government officials, the groups that are active there. However, if you look at the central part of Nigeria, the middle belt of Nigeria, we've seen a new security challenge, which is that of rural banditry, and as well as attacks on communities, as well as this type of sectarian violence spreading. So it depends on who you talk to. If you talk to the Northeast, they see an improvement. If you talk to North Central Nigeria, from my standpoint, I've seen a very haphazard approach, unfortunately, to the security challenge affecting Nigeria. Now, going into the elections, it was very difficult for President Buhari and his campaign team to use security as a point for election.
Okay, Kabiru, thank you very much. Speaking there to Kabiru Adamu, a security analyst in Abuja. This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News with me, Peter Okwoche. Still to come in the Premier League, Arsenal bidding for a 10th straight win with victory over Leicester City tonight. I'm Peter Okwoche. The top stories this hour. Another 7 years, Cameroon's President Paul Biya wins a 7th term in office in an election marred by low turnout and accusations of voter intimidation. And Ethiopia's president has signed a historic peace deal with the separatist Ogaden National Liberation Front, ending a 34-year armed rebellion. Now, since the election of President Abiy Ahmed in April, Ethiopia has witnessed rapid changes. The most fundamental is the peace deal with neighboring Eritrea. Zalambesa, a city on the border, was destroyed during the 1998 to 2000 war between the two countries. But now the border is open and it's seeing a revival after 20 years. Daniel Henry explains.
Welcome to Zalambesa, where trade and tourism are replacing the trauma of war.
I am very surprised. I didn't expect such a level of development. It's very surprising, but I'm happy.
We have everything we didn't have before, from the smallest product to the largest product. Things we didn't have before are coming from Mekele and Adigrat.
20 years after Ethiopia and Eritrea were locked in battle, the border between them reopened in September. Families are finally free to move, but their memories are long.
I couldn't run away before because I was under 20. You have to be 30 to be able to leave the country. So I had no choice but to wait.
Eritrea was part of Ethiopia, but after voting for independence in 1993, a bloody border dispute followed. Thousands of people died, but now trucks, people and goods are flowing in both directions. Those who are returning are looking forward to the future. Daniel Henry, BBC News.
You're watching BBC Focus on Africa. It's time for some sports. Mimi.
Thank you very much, Peter. We begin with football. The draw for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations took place yesterday in Accra. The hosts Ghana have been drawn in Group A along with Algeria, Mali and Cameroon. Cameroon, who held the tournament 2 years ago, were runners-up then. The captain of the Ghana women's team, right there, Elizabeth Addo, says that she doesn't see an easier opponent in her group, with women's football coming a long way, and that any of the teams can pull up a surprise at any time. In Group B, defending champions Nigeria, winning 8 editions, will be facing South Africa, Zambia and Kenya. Their tournament kicks off on October the 17th. In the Premier League, it's Arsenal versus Leicester City tonight. Good weekend for African football stars. A couple more to look out for tonight. Gabon's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, as well as Nigerian international Alex Iwobi. There's also the Nigerian duo of Wilfred Ndidi and Kelechi Iheanacho for Leicester. But for Arsenal, they will be hoping to continue with their impressive form under Unai Emery when they host Leicester City tonight. A win for them will make their 10th consecutive win in all competitions as they look to continue rebuilding in the post-Arsene Wenger era. Some athletics. Remember Feyisa Lelisa, the Rio Olympic silver medalist in the men's marathon, is back home in Ethiopia after 2 years of political exile in the United States. He had been living in the state of Arizona after showing an anti-government protest gesture as he crossed his hands over his head at the marathon finish line in Brazil. It was done in solidarity with the Oromo people, the country's largest ethnic group, and one he belongs to. But yesterday he was welcomed back to Ethiopia by the country's foreign minister and other officials. He says he's not interested in going into politics.
I knew this day was coming because I knew the blood of all these people wasn't going to be spilled in vain. I knew the dictator government would eventually fall. I was expecting this day, but I didn't know if it was going to be today or tomorrow. But I had clearly in my mind that I would go back to my father's land alive. I was loved by my people because I am a sportsman, not because I am a politician. It is only because I brought their suffering to world attention using my profession. Therefore, I don't have any intentions as regards politics.
More athletics. South Africa's middle distance runner Caster Semenya has been nominated for the IAAF World Female Athlete of the Year. Semenya is a treble world champion and two-time Olympic gold medalist. Kenya's Beatrice Chepkoech has also made the short list of the 10 nominees. Beatrice is the current world record holder in the 3,000-meter steeplechase. The winner will be revealed in December in Monaco. And that's all the sport, Peter.
Just before you go, Mimi, you know, I'm always happy when you talk about Arsenal.
Of course you are, wearing the colours.
How do you think they can do it? 10 straight wins?
I think they can. They've been in really good form under Unai Emery. Alex Iwobi, we've seen him doing so well, as well as Aubameyang and Lacazette.
Fantastic. I mean, if they do win, lunch is on you tomorrow.
We'll see.
Many thanks, Mimi. Now, we end the program tonight with a look at how Bitcoin is surging in popularity across Africa. Nigeria and South Africa are the continent's biggest traders in the cryptocurrency. Now, one entrepreneur in Nyeri, just outside Nairobi, Kenya, is revolutionizing how locals can pay for their favorite dish, nyama choma. Beatrice Wambugu calls herself a crypto pioneer, and her restaurant allows customers to pay with Bitcoin. Vomani Mkize has more.
Africa is a digital-first continent. It has already skipped fixed landlines altogether with the advent of the cell phone, and according to the African Development Bank, smartphone penetration on the continent is set to hit 50% by 2020. So could Africa also skip traditional forms of banking as well? With over 350 million Africans still unbanked, blockchain technology is seen as a viable alternative to make payments.
Nyama choma is a Kenyan barbecue and is a firm favorite amongst locals. Betty's Place here in Nyeri, about 150 kilometers or so outside Nairobi, is revolutionizing how people can pay for their favorite dishes. It is one of the few places where it accepts Bitcoin as a form of payment. So I'm here to find out more. What makes nyama choma so special?
We usually use this oven.
Wow.
We set shaku here, another one here.
Oh.
Hot water, hot water.
Yeah.
These are called grills, so you put it there, up and down.
Oh,
we give it 15 minutes.
I met with Beatrice Wambugu, the owner of Betty's restaurant, at a nearby trade fair to find out why she started using Bitcoin as a form of payment at her business.
2 years ago, I started doing the cryptocurrencies, trading with Bitcoin. Then when last year in November, I bought the hotel Nyeri, before it was a different name, but now it is Betty's. And I decided, since I own the hotel and I'm aware of the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency and the technology is actually the new technology, I decided to also accept it, as in to start it as the pioneers who are starting it, as in so that I can also bring on board different merchants who are around, they can also accept it and show them the way. There's a group that I'm really attracting, the group that accepts the cryptocurrency, the group that's aware of cryptocurrency. They are so much willing, and also they're excited coming to my place, feeding, and then they pay with Bitcoin. They are so excited. Yeah. And also there is also a group that they want to know what is Bitcoin, what is cryptocurrency. I'm also attracting it as my customers because they want to learn and know what it is.
Besides Kenya, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are surging in popularity around the continent. Nigeria and South Africa are in the top 10 of countries that trade the most Bitcoin globally.
So whatever currency you're in, whether it be the Nigerian currency, whether it be the Kenyan shilling, the Zimbabwe dollar, the South African rand, you can find an exchange which you can deposit those currencies into and then use those currencies to buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, or another one of those crypto assets.
Much of Bitcoin's appeal to entrepreneurs like Beatrice Wambugu is that the technology is still so new and largely unregulated across the continent. And whether it's regulated or not, Wambugu is forging ahead as a cryptocurrency pioneer.
So it's nyama choma and nyama Bitcoin.
Nyama choma and nyama Bitcoin, mchere choma, mchere Bitcoin. Mchere Bitcoin.
I'm still trying to get my head around the whole cryptocurrency thing. I'll just stick to cash. That's it on Focus on Africa for today. Don't forget you can get in touch with me and some of the team. I'm on Twitter @Okwoche. But for today, that's all. Join us again tomorrow. Have a good evening.